Greetings, Stars fans. This is game 23 versus the Vancouver Canucks. Stars win 3-2 in the shootout. First time we are seeing the shootout of this season. As always, we go back to the last video with our past predictions for this game, so always be sure to stick around to the end. Quinn, you said the score would be, if Dallas was to come on top, you said the Stars would have a score of 5-3. Now, you said if Vancouver was going to come on top, you liked the score of 5-1. You thought it was going to be a little more of a wide open game, a little bit of a more high scoring game. Now, I said that if Dallas was to come on top, it'd be a score of 4-3. I kind of figured it would be like the last meeting that they met up with, which, we kind of got that. But also, I said if Vancouver was to come on top, it'd be a score of 4-2. Now, the Stars coming into this season have not lost 2 straight games, and this is coming off of their 7-4 shellacking from the Ottawa Senators. And the Stars have made a good fashion of answering a loss and usually big blowout losses with a good whoa, what am I searching for? With good efforts to come in and really try to not let a losing streak start off. This team has real good resilience. They are taking their wins as great accomplishments, but they're also using their losses as as learning experiences. They're not taking these losses lightly. It seems like they're more proud in these losses with how they're able to rebound in the next game with coming off with a win than they are really with the overall winning of the team. Now,
yeah, I totally agree with that.
In this game, we got a little bit of everything. We had even play. We had a ton of penalties. We got to see the overtime for the second straight with Vancouver. And then we also got to see the shootout for the first time. Now let's talk about the early penalties that we had in the first period. How did you like Dallas coming out in the period overall, and what did you think of like the penalties and the tone that was set throughout that period?
I feel like it was one of probably not their worst first period, but one of them. Like, they just couldn't catch a break with all the penalties that were happening, and it just seemed like they just couldn't catch a break. So I feel they could have played better, but that penalty kill that they had definitely saved the game for them, especially on the 4-minute.
Yeah, no, it absolutely did save the game for them, because that could have put them in a hole very, very early. I mean, the Anton Roussel goal, it was kind of like the Colton Sevier goal late into the game, where the player was already going down, or was that, no, that was the Ales Hemsky penalty. He was really almost going down already, and the ref just decided, you know what, that's interference, which, I guess could be called either way. But, it was one of those periods to where Dallas could not find their rhythm. They got outshot like 14-8, but the thing that is going great with this Stars team is the resilience that they're showing, because they are still finding a way to stay in the game. They carry their momentum very well. It's almost as if the hockey gods are really, really shining down on them right now, because I think any other team that gets down with those early first period penalties and gets outshot like 14-8 is usually behind the 8 ball early in the game. But the Stars come back with their own power play, and they score on the power play with Jamie Benn's 17th of the season. I mean, this is game 23, and Jamie Benn already has 17 goals. I mean, a lot of players in the NHL won't even get to 17 goals. Hell, I don't even think Nichushkin gets to 17 goals.
I don't
But
think a lot of people see Nichushkin putting up 17 goals.
yeah, and it's his 8th on the power play, and I think that ties him first with, I think they were saying, with Justin Falk in Carolina, with the most goals on the power play in the league. So, I mean, they are showing why this team is the offensive powerhouse that they are, because they're never truly out of the game, as we saw with like the Ottawa game. I mean, they tried to overcome a 5-1 deficit last game, but they just couldn't catch a break that game. But it seems like the lucky bounces are here with this team. And that's what is really setting up this team for I feel. I mean, I still think it's way too early to say, this is going to be a long run team in the playoffs. But right now they are proving to win different ways and actually finding luck to where they did not have that last season. Now, coming into this game against Vancouver, it was being said that the Stars have won 8 straight against Vancouver and 6 straight against Ryan Miller. So that dates back to Ryan Miller being in St. Louis. And I think maybe a Buffalo trip whenever he was there. But it's just showing that the Stars are finding ways to really overpower a lot of the teams that they... When they find a rhythm against a team, they seem to always keep that, and it's refreshing to see. I mean, it almost makes me lose a loss of words that this Stars team can be as dominant as they are, but really not even playing a full 60 minutes of a game, because I still think they have not played a full 60 minutes at all this season. There has not been one game to where they truly played a full 60 minutes. What are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, like you said, that they find that pattern to score. Well, what I feel like, going back to what you said about them overpowering their opponents, it's a different kind of overpowering than a lot of teams because of their skill level that they have through all 4 lines and all 3 lines on defense. And, like, a lot of teams cannot keep up with this team in skill. So that definitely is one of those helpers that will put this team at the top of the contender list for a long time, as long as they can keep it going.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And speaking of defense, we get a familiar face back in the lineup with Jason Demers. Now, What do you think Jason Demers brings to this lineup, and what do you think the impact that he had in this game?
He brings consistency to the D lines. When you start having top defensemen miss games, you bring in your top AHL development players like Alexiak, and hopefully Nemeth will get to see some time on this road trip. But what that means is like now you have 2 top lines that essentially make up your D pair. Yeah, you have your third pair, but those are your more like still developing, or your veteran D-men that can still play. And it's always good to have that second line that's just as good as your top line.
Yeah, and it proved that Demers is becoming more valuable to this team because he was out with an injury in the Ottawa game, but it's not like he was being held back. He didn't play just like 16 minutes in this game. He played the most minutes of any defenseman of the game, but that's because he's essential to the penalty kill. Him and Oduya logged the most minutes of the team because they are so essential to the penalty kill. It's one of those calming factors that, yes, you can have Goligoski and Klingberg out there, but we'll talk about Klingberg in just a minute. But Demers is really finding a good settlement on the blue line. He's not too rash. He's not making overly assertive plays. He's not making the bad plays. He's paying attention to his positioning, and he's not making those bad plays that we saw in the last game against Ottawa. So let's go and touch on Klingberg and how he's had another rough game. Now, I don't want to say that he was rattled in the Ottawa game, but we saw another terrible open ice right in front of the net pass that needed to not happen. Now, what do you take from Klingberg's last two games, and how do you really think he gets back to form?
He's got to start simplifying his game. I don't know if it's like you said, like it doesn't seem like he's rattled, but I kind of do think he's getting rattled a little bit. Like Dallas is praising him to be the next Zubov. Everybody's talking about how he should be in the Norris Trophy candidate list, which I don't disagree with. But maybe he's feeling pressure to be that defenseman right now. I mean, this is only his second NHL season. Yeah, he's doing phenomenal things, but it goes back to what we say in previous videos. He still needs time to develop into that Zubov type player. He's not there yet. He still is going to make those rookie mistakes. I mean, he's just looking rattled.
So you think
he needs to simplify his game, take that extra second to look. I mean, the number one rule of defense that I was taught growing up is you never pass the puck in front of the net.
Right.
Unless you know for sure that it's not going to get intercepted. Second rule of defense is you don't pass the puck in front of the net without looking.
Yeah, so
looks like we got a little bit of lag going on here.
I know. So do you think that what he's experiencing, do you think he's experiencing it because of the early Norris talk that we got from when NHL.com released its early standings?
Yeah, I do think so. I think he's starting to read all these articles about him and how they're saying thing, and I think he's trying too hard to make that happen right now. He's still got to develop. He's only, like 23 years old? 22, 23?
Yeah.
He's still got another, 4 years of development, I feel, to really start coming into that Zubov type play.
Now, the difference that we think that we are seeing in this game is that, he's not he's taking those looks, but he's 5 steps ahead of where he really needs to be. And see, the difference that I feel is there's a play that Tyler Seguin did. He made a similar cross crease in the front of the net pass, but what he did was he made the observation that it's not going to get picked off. So it's one of those things that he just needs to slow his game down and not be so hurried.
Oh yeah, I think what were you saying last night about the difference between Seguin and Klingberg about their skill level is that, Seguin took that extra second to make that cross-ice pass, and you weren't seeing that out of Klingberg. And, that does relevant to the way Klingberg's playing right now. He's got to break out of that rookie type play, I feel like.
Yeah. Let's just keep having the conversation, and we'll have to play another game.
That's fine.
Okay. Let's just keep having the conversation, and I'll just edit this out. Okay. So, going into this game, it it turned ugly kind of soon. It was one of those things that they got down early in the first period with their penalties, and they just could never grab real true momentum, because it seemed like Vancouver was really having an answer to all of their push and everything like that. But going into the second is where things really kind of started turning the tide for Dallas. That's every period had at least 3 penalties in it. This was a high penalty game. The second period was where the Vancouver Canucks started getting into their penalty problems, and then Dallas was able to make them pay on that. And going on to that power play where Jason Spezza just had an absolute hammer from the face-off dot, there comes a question of, why doesn't he do that more often? He has proved so many times that he has that amazing shot, that it just seems that he's electing to pass first a lot of the times, but it seems like he's only shooting when he knows he has a clear-cut shot on the net to really, try to get one in the net. Now, the question I have for you and viewers as well, does this Stars team, do their superstars need to start being more selfish?
Yes, they do. I like you were saying about Spezza's shot. Like, I honestly think he's probably got, if not the second best slap shot on this team, behind Sagan. And he's probably got the second best wrist shot on this team behind Ben. Like, I get that our skill with the puck means that we can pass and we can shoot and we can do everything that we want, but sometimes the easier play to just shoot the puck on net, how we have seen last game with Sagan, he just takes it in, shoots the puck, and it goes in. This game, Spezza takes the puck in, shoots the puck, and it goes in.
Yeah, we're seeing a lot of the times that with the 2-on-1s and everything like that, it's a pass first team. It's one of those things that our top 3 scorers have these monster shots that anybody in the NHL would kill for, but they're electing to shoot, or they're electing to pass first. It's one of those things that I just don't understand.
I don't either, and like, especially on these 2-on-1s, any real good defenseman is always going to take the pass away first. So unless you can hit that sweet saucer pass over him, you're not left with a lot of options to try and pass unless you have that trailer, that third person in with you. So I mean, I feel like we should take the shot more, try to create that rebound, and have that second guy just crash to the net looking to pick it up.
Yeah.
So I have a question for you. Do you think they put Nemeth in on this road trip?
That is a good question. I feel as if he will get some time in this road trip. I think his best time that he's going to come in will be the Calgary game, because they'll have some rest going in. He'll have a little more time to work his way back into the system. It's kind of how I feel with Kari Lehtinen being on the IR now, that we might see Jack Campbell against Calgary. I feel as if that is going to happen, depending on how long term this injury is to Kari. But I feel as if that'll be a good game. There's no knock against Calgary. I think they are an upcoming team with a lot of young talent. I think they need to figure out their goaltending more than anything. But it's one of those games that, they're rebuilding. You know, they're not ready to make that next step just yet. Kind of like the Stars were a couple of years ago. You know, they weren't ready to take that next step just yet. So I feel as if you can catch Calgary on a little hiccup, but I do feel he deserves the time to come back in. I think, you know, it's we should start now doing a goalie or like how we do with the goalie system. I do feel as if we need to start doing that with our third pair of defense. You know, rotate out a lot of people. You know, don't. I think it helps not letting these guys get comfortable. Kind of like how our goalie system has been working. You're not really letting the goalies get comfortable. You know, once they get comfortable, they get complacent. How do you feel?
I definitely think that they should allow them to put Nemeth in. I think that they should put Alexiak in too. You know, I think that they should maybe give Nemeth the priority though, and maybe get Alexiak one game. But I do feel like they should put Nemeth in for at least 2 games out there.
Yeah, no, I definitely feel he's in need of NHL speed. I mean, you can only go down to the AHL and condition as much as possible. But when you're touted as an NHL defenseman, you need NHL speed to really get your game back to form. I mean, Nemeth has only played, 2 games this season?
Yeah, I think 2 games.
Yeah, and then he was sent down for conditioning with the AHL. He's been there for a couple of weeks now. It's one of those things that, you know, he was a big reason going into these past few seasons. Like, you know, this guy is going to be a guy that we can depend on, you know? So I feel as if he deserves some time in. I don't think he's going to get time in against Minnesota tonight. I don't think it's a division game. There's too much at risk with a division game to bring in new people. Just like I feel that Jack Campbell won't see the net. I haven't read the reports yet. You know, we're doing this pretty early into the game or into the day. So I feel as if it would be unwise if Jack Campbell were to come in against Minnesota. This game's too important, especially since we haven't played a lot of division games. These are the most important games. So, you know, it's one of those things that he doesn't need to... Nemeth does not need to come against Minnesota. He needs to come again in the later part of the week. Tuesday would be perfect because, you know, 2 days rest, get a little more company to the system. You know, it's one of those things that... You know, it's just too important against Minnesota. But let's talk about that third period that Dallas had with the Vancouver Canucks. Dallas again got into penalty trouble. They took 3 penalties in the third period, and I can't recall if they have or not. But is this the first game that the Stars have not scored a third period goal?
I think it might have. I don't have the stats or anything on it, but it definitely felt like this was the only game
it's either the first
they weren't able to pull one out.
Yeah, it's either the first or second game. I want to say the Colorado game they didn't score in the third. I might be mistaken. But this is either the first or second game that the Stars have not scored in the third period. Not saying that worries me or anything like that, but it's one of those things that the Stars are touted as the best third period team, and for them not to get on the board in the third period could cause for some concern, but not right now. There's no reason to, you know, sound the alarm that the NHL has now figured out the Dallas Stars. I don't think that's the case just yet, but it's something to keep your eye on now. You know, usually when trends start, they find a way to end as well. So the Stars have had such a glorious third period run that, you know, the streak will come to an end. But it like the Stars have proven all season, when they lose something, they gain it right back next game. It's just one of those things that the Stars have really found their way into this season. Now, let's also talk about the penalties. They give the Canucks 7 power plays. They almost got out of the game without giving up a power play goal, but on the very last one, you know, who was it? It was Henrik from his brother Daniel with a filthy saucer backhand pass over to him, and you know, Daniel didn't even get much. I think that's what flubbed Niemi a lot on that shot, was that Henrik did not get a lot on it. So you could tell his glove was in position, but he had it up higher, anticipating the shot to get a little more height on it than anything. So it was one of those things that, you know, if Daniel gets all of his stuff into that shot, Niemi probably makes that save. But because it was flubbed, his glove just wasn't in the right spot. But let's also go into overtime and what turned into pretty much just street hockey rules for the whole overtime. How did you like that overtime?
It definitely had a lot of action to it, and it was fast paced, and then pretty much it's like you said, like it seemed like nothing was going to get called.
Yeah, we got fortunate on the too many men on the ice penalty against Vancouver. I think that's the first time I've seen a penalty called in overtime this season. But it had everything. It was that's what the 3-on-3 overtime was touted to be. Just nonstop action, saves, 2-on-1s, almost empty net goals with goalies jumping out and making diving saves with Antti Niemi. It was spectacular. This is the overtime that the NHL wants, and I guarantee you this thing is here to stay. But going on, we see the shootout for the very first time. We see Tyler Seguin starting the night off with the first shot. Gives a little fakearoo, makes Miller bite on his fake, and then Seguin puts it 5-hole on Miller. And then after that, you know, not really much else from the Stars. We see Jason Spezza pretty much dangle himself out of his own skates. And then we see Jamie Benn almost getting by, but a little cheeky poke check from Miller saves his shot. Overall, I think Niemi looked calm and collected in the shootout. What'd you think about Niemi in the shootout?
I think he really brought his A game. You know, he really went out and, you know, he deserved that win in the shootout. Like he didn't fight on the first bid. He let the shooter make the first move, which is what goalie coaches tell you to do when it's in a shootout. You know, he played overall good.
Let's go into the ratings. What rating did you give this game?
I'd probably say B-.
Oh.
They really got to work on that penalty trouble.
Yeah, absolutely. I gave a B+ because, you know, the Stars did have fight in this game. You know, it's like I said at the beginning of the video, this still was not a 60-minute game. It got out of hand at times when, you know, it had no reason for getting out of hand. A lot of those penalties, you know, I think we didn't even see the Jamie Benn double minor. I think that happened like right whenever it was going to break or something like that in the in the TV intermission or the TV break, so we didn't even get to really see it. I think they did a brief replay of it, but the Jamie Benn tripping penalty that looked terrible in like full motion, but slowing it down, it showed that Jamie Benn really didn't try to kick his legs out from under him. It was just one of those things that was kind of happening because I think he was already on his way down. But Jamie Benn continues to find himself in positions that he doesn't need to be in. He's taking these reckless penalties that hurt the team more than anything. That's what it adds up to be. His penalties usually wind up hurting this team. Going into next game, game 24 against the Minnesota Wild. That would be tonight, second game on the back-to-back. What predictions do you have?
I feel like this is a hard one. They're playing Calgary?
No, Minnesota.
Minnesota? Oh, okay. No, that's right. They play Calgary in the next game. I feel like it's going to be a hard-fought game again. Like, I haven't been coming out right on my predictions lately, but I still feel like it's going to be a high-scoring game between Dallas and Minnesota. So I'm going to say if Dallas wins 3-2, and if Minnesota wins, I'm going to say 4-3.
So you think it'll be a close game no matter what?
Yeah.
Okay. If Dallas wins, I'm going to say it's a score of 2-0. Because I feel as if they will learn from tonight's game and really crack down on their penalties and their defensive positioning. I think this game is where Klingberg doesn't make any bonehead passes. I think the defense comes together and really stands tall for this game. So 2-0 if the Stars win. Now, if the Minnesota wins, it's because Dallas comes out flat-footed. And flat-footed Stars is where you want to catch the Stars if you're an opposing team. I'm going to say the Minnesota Wild win by a score of 5-2. Now, that's only if the Stars are flat-footed and don't have their game in this one, because it is a back-to-back game. They are traveling to Minnesota. Who knows what that'll really take from the Stars. But that is the discussion. Be sure to comment, like, subscribe, give any kind of feedback, share anywhere you would like. Tell your friends, tell your mom. Hell, tell your daughter if you want. This show is by fans for fans. Help us make this into something that you want to watch. And as always, tune in next time.